We do roll call.
Steve Kane. Here. Gerald Lee.
Here.
Tom Erickson.
Here.
Troy Boone. Art Schott.
Here.
Teresa Swagan. Here. Nathan Anderson.
Is there any changes to the agenda? If there are no changes, would I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Erickson, so moves.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 14th, 2019 meeting?
He moves to approve the minutes.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the March 4th, 2019 meeting. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. All right, at this time we will recess the city council meeting for the local equalization board meeting. We have roll call.
Steve Kane. Here. Gerald Lee.
Here.
Tom Erickson.
Here.
Troy Boone. Art Schott.
Here.
Teresa Swagan. Here. Nathan Anderson. And Dan Erickson.
Here.
All right. So the agenda is set. I guess the first hearing will be for Pamela, what? Partial 02.270118.
She is on vacation,
Okay.
and so she just submitted her letter. An objection document.
I think if you guys look at this sheet, Elaine put together for you, it tells you what their current value is and what they're requesting the value to be. That probably would help. That'll be the second page on after the agenda on your computer. It'll be on your computer. You can take a look at it.
And number 1 and number 4 are the same building, right? Yep, it's
The Colony
John owns on South Third.
Okay.
I guess that would be my only comment, is that we should be consistent. So, unless they're two completely different, but I think they're all, what, 2 bedrooms?
They should be the same square footage and, yeah, it'd just be location. And
Yeah, what we did last year, because we didn't do, I think the last 2 years, we've done one down there each year. And then 2 years ago, we kind of valued, and then last year, somebody came from down there, and so we looked back the year before, and I think just did whatever we've done, like Teresa said, try and keep it consistent. I can't remember what we came up with as value for that. I was thinking of something like 7,000. I think you're right. We don't have any meetings, minutes from last year.
Last year we appraised Leo and Jean Kaiser's ask. Building value $65,000, land value $8,513, for a total of $73,513 last year. Well, if you look at this, all of those were increased. The building values have all been increased up to $91,000, even after you guys did that last year. So they did reappraise the entire
Okay.
in Union County. So all of those went up to the same value. So.
Like Dan said, I think we need to remain consistent here. We might have to go up to, not necessarily what they have, because I'm saying, let's see if I'm reading that right, that's the building. 84 and 91.
say last year, the building?
The building was, we put the building value at 65,000 and the land value at 8,513.
So we valued one last year at 75,000, but that one also then went up to 91,000.
They all went up.
I'm assuming they all went up.
And that's the county evaluation.
Yes. Yeah, that's the county evaluation.
Don't do that adjustment there. You just said the value, don't do that adjustment.
No, I know, but is that 99, is that what 85%? True and full,
I think that's true. I think.
okay. Jerry, do you know, is that true and full? Or is it
I think it's supposed to be 95%, somewhere in that area.
Well, the county reviews it also after we.
You just make a recommendation to them, and then if they don't agree with it, then they will invite two of the appellant down there. Correct. To just discuss it with them. If they agree, then they probably won't contact that person. So.
But we never heard from the other tenants.
Yeah.
Next year, I bet we do.
Next year.
Yeah, depending on what we do.
I guess there'll be more.
Yeah, depending on what happens.
So we adjust one, both, or none? Land,
Yeah, each one item you'll have to set a value on the land and also on the building portion of it. So if someone wants to make a motion, either way, you'll just have to set a building value separate from the land value.
Last year we did 74, 73, 75, 74, 8.
Any thoughts?
I guess maybe a suggestion would be leave the land value as is and move building value to 70,000 on each. That put them at 78,455.
Is that a motion, Teresa?
I'll make that a motion for, can I do, you have to do each one separately?
Yes.
Okay. So for appeal 19-01 to set land or leave land value at the 8,455 and do the land, building value at 70,000.
Erickson's back.
All right. Motion has been made to reevaluate the building values. The land value remains the same, and the building is 70,000. Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Passed. Next one is Glendon and Mary Knudsen partial. Representing by Tom.
I'm here on their behalf tonight. They're not back to California yet, so They're requesting a slight lowering of the value of their property. When they built it, the financing was done in late 2016. And they had 2 different appraisals done with 2 different lenders as they were shopping for rates. And, you know, I attached the cover sheet and the valuation from each of those appraisals to the form. One appraised it at $540,000, the other $532,335. They're requesting that the average of those 2 appraisals be utilized for the valuation. Put $60,000 on the land and $476,168 on the building value. The trying to find comparables is a little difficult, and I think that was part of the problem. Sometimes the appraisers have. One I did look at least in terms of square footage, is actually quite a bit bigger, would be the Atwood house down here on the curve. That's valued at $541,742. That's got about 1,500 more square feet and a bigger lot as well. That home is a bit older, but not significantly older. I think it was built in looking on the form here, it was built 08. Was built about 9 years earlier than Glenn and Mary's. They just felt that the appraised value would be, from the certified appraiser, should be the market value that would be utilized by the assessor for purposes of the evaluation going forward. The assessor did lower it from 2018 to 19 2018 to 19 it was lowered after they had visited with them, but they didn't apparently believe that the 2 appraised values were the real value of the property. So that's what they're requesting, is the average of the 2 appraisals. Again, when the appraisers do houses like that, they usually have to go out of town to try and find comparables. In terms of resale, the only thing close that I know would be the brewing house that sold to Dagan. That's reported to be at $450,000. I think that's probably the highest sale in town by quite a ways ever. So that's what their request is. That's also a golf course lot, so there's some comparables, not quite as big square footage wise.
Can you repeat yourself on the request for the land and
and you know, I know what they paid for the land, but I put it $60,000 on the land, $476,168 for the building, and then again, that was the average of the 2 appraisals that they received 2 years ago.
Pearson moves to approve the request.
motion's been made and seconded on the Linden and Mary Knudsen partial. 60,000 on the land request and 476,168 on the building. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item is the Swinby Properties partial.
Well, we're asking that it got evaluated up substantially. Our taxes went up 43% from last year to this year. And we've got some comparables here to other properties that we believe you guys have it on an agenda, right, Lynn?
Yes.
Our property this year was valued at $214,256. the Evergreen Square property, which is the identical building to ours, is valued at $184,529. So that's both together. And the Evergreen Square one is $137,910. That's the same size as ours. Scogan's property's been totally remodeled, and they're 12 plexes. Ours is a 12-plex. Again, his is 137. His is 184,000. Ours is 214. I believe our last year's value was at was what I was asking for, was at 174. I think that was our last year's value. I mean, the only thing we've done is put on a new roof 2 years ago when we had the hail damage and so forth. But every month, 43%. I'm trying to understand why. Our land value jumped to, our land value is 46,500. That's what they're saying it was. And I think it was, I don't know, 30-some thousand last year. I don't have that number with me. So we're asking that our total value of 207,474. That's what we're asking. Just to put it in comparison with the other two properties, which are almost identical to ours. We bought this property 3 years ago.
So can you repeat that total again one more time that you just said?
Total assessment, we're asking 207,474, which is, I believe, should I increase that? It's on the sheet, right? And as far as location is concerned, their property is on Highway 46, which is prime location versus we're sitting behind a garage. You know, so if we jump 40%, I don't understand why that's good.
So the request is for a total assessment of 207,474. Any thoughts or comments?
What was the valuation in 18 for county's land and building value?
I don't have that with me, but I think it was in that 175 range. You know, I don't have it. It's 2018 taxes.
It's here, Tom.
Yeah.
181, 320 in 17, and then the value went up to 267.36 last year and stayed the same for this year.
No. The books doesn't say the same, but what we paid in taxes and what our land value last year was 170 something, I think, total. The numbers that you just read are based on two books that the city gets, but they're the same thing. I don't know why they're the same, but they are. That's not what we paid last year. I can tell you what we paid in taxes last year if you want to know that. We paid $3,768.
And then it jumped up this year to 5406.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just asking if it's the same
The valuation jumped up.
a year ago.
No, it didn't jump up a year ago. It jumped up in the books that you have here. it shows that, I think the book that Elaine showed, it was the first book was like February or something, or January.
18.
Yeah, but that is, on the tax statement we have, it didn't show that. You know what I'm saying? The tax statement that we get paid our taxes on did not show that evaluation.
Right, because your tax statement that you paid in 18 was 2017's value. So the 18 assessed value is what you're going to pay in 19.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we don't see the jump. It's just a year lag, so. So they will be paying the increased value for in 19.
We're setting the 19 value.
Just based on the property values of the other two properties, which are also in Union County, obviously, but we think they should be similar to what they are.
Used a little bit. Put it down, just to get the facts straight, it's 174, 974 is the equalized value. Underneath that should be, if we do it according to this, do the assessed value. Because those add up 214 and that's the 260, that's assessed value, that's what they're doing. Would you be opposed to the request? You see what, does that make sense? What I'm looking at that a little different. You're asking for 174 on the building. Okay, so our total would then be 207. I don't know, they might, if they would look at that down at the county, if they're gonna look and say, well, you know, you pick the equalized value at 174, 974 on this, I'm looking at the 2017 tax statement, you know, that's a little bit higher than what you're asking, but there might be a little bit more, I don't know. If we mark that building at 181, 320, but I guess, you know, if we could, I'm not opposed to saying, you know, let's do this, and they're the ultimate decision maker down there anyway.
Well, they're saying that all three, four of these buildings are built about the same time, and the Carey house is identical in size
Yeah,
to ours, identical.
yeah. So
And
I think
valuation is tremendously different.
So I think, you know, that you've got some pretty good documentation there too, so you know, that'll help.
So we have a motion.
Anderson moved to approve land at 32.5, building value 174, 974, total 207, 474.
Sounds good. All right, motion's been made and seconded for a total assessed value of 207, 474. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's passed. The last partial is Geneva Lunsford.
I would make a motion to, because this is number one, so we're gonna make a motion on 2019-04 for land value of 8,455 and building value of 70,000.
Dan, second.
Motion has been made. Land value of 8455. Property for building value of 70,000. 70,000. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 4 is to review and approve assessment goals.
Yeah, we just have to have a motion, so for you guys to sign off on the whole book. There's the whole book. We don't have it all in here. You guys want to look at it. We've got both Union and Lincoln counties. So we have any motion.
Here's the move to approve the assessment roll. Here's some second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the assessment goals. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I have a motion for adjournment for the Beresford Equalization Board.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We will now reconvene the normal city council. All right, we're on item number 5, visitors to be heard. Leon Leaks sewer bill in there as a result of broken water main. I believe you have information in your packet on that.
Leon intended to be here. I thought he would be here, but I think Elaine and I visited with him quite extensively on it. I'll let Elaine kind of, she works on the billing side of it a little bit more than I do, so. She can explain what happened.
Pete Krupinski was out reading water meters and he noticed excessive water in the 10-year parking lot and brought it to Leon's attention, and they found that there was a water line that broke. So commercial property is required to pay for all gallons for the sewer. And so he had excessive water bill, which he had no problems paying. He is debating the sewer charges. So at the very bottom of his bill, you'll see a calculator tape. I took an average of 14 months, and his average is $16.67. So if we were to go with that average, he's requesting a $525 refund on sewer fees only.
And for the record, none of that water went down the sewer.
No, it
It
was
went
all
down
outside in the parking lot.
to the parking lot and to the curb, to the storm sewer.
Erickson moves to approve the request.
Got a second. Motion has been made and seconded to refund $525 to the Timber account for the sewer water usage. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. Next person is Rob.
I apologize for not having enough copies for everybody so you guys can share.
So what we're doing is, obviously the chamber, we've been working really hard on trying to get this summer celebration done. The old fashioned weekend in the park. And there's a few things we want to request the city to help us with. One of the first things we're going to do is at the center, what is it? I forget what it's called. At Bridges. Well, yeah, like the dance hall.
Community room or whatever.
Yeah, I forgot what they call it. So what we want to do as Friday night is, one of the things that we've noticed is there's never anything to do for the younger crowd. So what we'd like to do is if we can get a DJ, and we need to talk to you about your DJ, Gerald, see if he would be willing to do Friday night. We'd like to have a teen dance at the center, at the Bridges for the kids. We'll provide pop.
We'll provide all the refreshments and stuff. We
Yep.
just need the venue.
Yeah. So what we're doing is asking, and then the next night, Saturday night, we would like to have a live band in there and a dance. And what we're gonna do is we want to have a pub crawl in town, and basically they'll start either out at my bar, then they'll come to Classics, and then the municipal,
They go to Burt's,
Burt's,
Classics, liquor store,
and
and
then end up out there. I've already been in contact with Autumn Road out of Centerville, and they're gonna let me know if they're available that weekend. He was pretty sure they were. And so we're gonna pay for the bill of the band, and we would be giving all rights to the city for the alcohol sales within Bridges that night. What we're asking is if we can get the venue for free for both nights.
Have you checked with Mike to see if it's available?
I did. Well, let me rephrase. We just talked about the team dance at Bridges, so, because we were gonna do it at the school originally. So I don't know for Friday night for sure. Saturday night is available and I'm already written in. So, that's kind of one of the things that we wanted to talk about, is see if we can waive the fees for the center. What we're trying to do is this celebration, we're trying to make it as low cost or free as possible, as much as free as we can.
And family oriented.
Yep.
Most of it.
So, and that's kind of one of the things we wanted to talk about. And then the other thing is the pool. We would like, I know it's been in discussion before, but we would really like to see that they offer some sort of free swimming on Saturday. I think it's a great way for the city to showcase their new pool. You know, if you can get people from out of town and they can say their kids don't want to walk around and shop all the vendors, you know, the kids can swim while mom and dad go out and shop and eat or do whatever. So, we'd like to see if we can.
That was on Saturday, you're requesting that?
Just Saturday.
Just Saturday, yep. And it'd be from like 1 to 5 or whatever you guys need.
I didn't know if, you know, if the weather permitting that they could go a little bit earlier, you know. But depending on what you guys come up with.
Right. And then, so just to give you an idea of kind of what we have in plan, obviously we talked about the team dance with the DJ and free pizza. Then on the Saturday the 3rd, we're gonna have in the park, there's gonna be park vendors, there's gonna be games. We're trying to get up to 50 vendors in the park. So we may need some electricity, I'm not 100% sure. We are gonna try to tell people though that they should probably try to bring a generator if they could.
You can't leave yet.
So, I mean, I know if we can get some electricity, I'd like to offer some if some of the vendors do require it. But otherwise, if they can bring a generator and operate off of their own generator, that'd be better. And then, we talked about swimming. Then there's gonna be games, face painting, dunk tank, ring toss. We're gonna have at the band show, we're talking about doing like a music talent show type of thing for local kids or local bands around here. If they want to play.
Something going on all day while people are shopping and eating.
And then that day, there's also the car show at Dad's, and that's from 2 to 5. We want to see if we can try to get the pedal car races in town again like they have in the past.
Well, Darla Jacob has 12 pedal cars, and she's offering them for free use if we want to have a pedal car race. And then we can find out from Chrissy about the tractors, and kind of just incorporate, that's another something for kids to do.
And then afterwards, after the car show, then there's the burnout contest, down over at, Mitch's place. Eastway. And then after that, we want to have like a cruise night downtown where all the cars, kind of like what we did last year, just have a cruise night. People can bring their cars down, drive around downtown. If we can have some food vendors set up outside somewhere in the area, that's kind of what we're shooting for there too. And then, like I said, we talked about the pub crawl. And then the last thing be Sunday morning, we want to try to we're getting with all the local churches about having a community church service out in the park where everybody brings their own chairs and a potluck deal. So we'll have tables and stuff set up out there, maybe some paper plates or whatever. And then if people come to the church service, then afterwards we can eat. And it'd be a potluck type of deal. And
I was told the Ministerial Association always has a summer outdoor, or somebody does.
Individual churches.
Each in August, all of them, or?
They have a cooperative Bible school,
No, yeah, that,
but I don't know that they have.
oh, okay.
joint
Well,
church
anyway,
service.
they were gonna talk, the one person that was telling me this was gonna talk to the Ministerial Association and see if they would combine their outdoor service to this one day.
So that's kind of where we're at. Obviously, we're in the early stages of planning, but we think we've got a really good start. And so the biggest part is trying to get, if we could, just get Bridges for free those 2 nights. What's that?
This, if you wanted to get in, money from the city
Oh.
or anything. We were supposed to ask.
Oh, I guess I'm supposed to ask, I didn't, sorry. And if the city would be willing to donate any
Funds
funds
towards the,
towards the event. I guess we need to talk about the bouncy house.
oh yeah, the bouncy houses will be there too.
And that'll be across from Dad's in Sioux.
Possibly.
Yeah, in
We're
their
working
grass.
on some of the location of things
So,
still.
I know the bouncy houses are gonna cost the chamber about $2,800. And that price is not negotiable, that's what they want. Other than that, I mean, I'm sure we can probably ask some of the local businesses to help out, as we've done in the past. And there's just not a lot of money, we really need a whole lot. We're just trying to make it as cost effective as possible.
I guess one of the things that comes to my mind right away, Rob, about requesting the waive or the fees for the Bridges Event Center. Would you have, I mean, the first thing that I think of is volunteers to clean up the place, make sure it's clean outside, the parking lot's clean.
Absolutely.
I guess that's the first thing that I would want to hear, is that you have plenty of volunteers. So
I'll make sure it's clean.
our employees would have to,
Well, and, you know, I do.
because they're gonna be working during this time.
Right. And we'll have people watching the place there. I'll be there,
We can definitely line that up. I mean, I have a couple of businesses that want volunteer opportunities, and I have talked to them about the summer event, and they said they'd have a sign-up sheet and, you know, be willing to participate as best as they can. So if that was, you know, your requirement, then we can lay that on them.
Whatever you require, we'll meet it.
It's got one question on golf course. Are they supposed to have separate insurance, or do we already have insurance? Because I remember when Jim did that Wheels and Squeals, the Carnival had to take out their own policy for liability.
Well, the Wheels and Squeals Committee had their own insurance policy.
So are they gonna have their own for the?
I would assume that would fall under the Chamber of Commerce's
Insurance,
insurance
yeah.
or some sort.
They have a, I don't know what they call it, but events policy. Yeah.
And so everybody knows here, I have also checked on for my car show and burnout contest. I have insurance through my business for that, and that's gonna be my own separate thing, but, that was a good point, Art, about insurance. And then on Sunday for the community potluck, would that be at the park?
Yeah. We'd be probably utilizing the large lion shelter, and well, they set up for the church service in the band shell, and then the food would be to the lion shelter.
I guess I have just a little bit of a concern with the pub crawl.
We did have.
I'm not very familiar with that, but I think it's usually they walk the block or 2 blocks or whatever. Now we're talking a mile or 2 in cars. It concerns me a little bit.
Some of our notes, we had transportation, because it concerns us too. It wasn't not, you know, it was discussed, but.
It is that I think there's gonna be something going on. It's just that what's it look like when we're promoting people to get in their car and drive from my bar and
Understood.
down to Burt's, and I don't wanna deny anybody their business, but.
We did discuss transportation, as far as getting a bus.
Yeah, we were talking about getting a bus.
Or some trolleys or something.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
We discussed it, and I do get it, I mean, because especially in today's world, drinking and driving is huge, so you don't want people to.
Yeah, and, you know, we don't wanna promote it either, but about the time you think that it wouldn't be such a big deal coming that short a distance,
Right.
that's when something happens.
Yep.
Correct.
Just a thought.
Well, do we want to check Mike and,
Well, they said they've already checked with Friday the 3rd. We just need to check.
Saturday.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
Saturday
Sorry.
the 3rd, so we need to check with Friday. I mean, mean, I'm okay, as long as, like you said, Gerald, they have volunteers to do cleanup and stuff, I'm okay with the bridge's use.
That's not a problem. And if you need a dumpster, you put garbage in.
As far as the financial contribution, I would guess I would ask Jerry to, or Jerry and Elaine to check what we could afford and come back to us and we can discuss it.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Is there any feelings on the free swimming day?
Well, I think that should be, yeah,
That should be easy.
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Most of the people in town are either gonna have their pass already, so it's gonna be mostly just the out of town people, I feel.
Okay. And we just have to kind of let the lifeguards be aware of the
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah, well, I have to let Kelly know
Work with
that
Kelly.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be a free
I'll tell you
spending.
what, so.
Okay.
She'll be involved with you with the parks and picnic
Yeah.
tables and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of us letting Kelly know that there's free swimming.
That would be all.
Good.
All right.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, appreciate what you're doing for this town.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
I don't see any committee reports, so I guess we'll.
I just got one.
Oh, okay.
Jeff said that he's out of town, they couldn't make it today, very sorry, but he should hear maybe next week about the streets department.
So he'll bring us a report
Well, I gotta bring something.
at our next meeting. All right. All right. Next item, number 7, department heads reports. Jay Norquist, Banner Engineering contract, substation access road.
All right, you should have in your packet there, I guess, contracts from Banners and Associates, engineering, and that was before the road into the substation. We'd like to get that started this summer, so to kind of get that part done, so when they decide to start construction, we're not fighting with contractors building the road and stuff, so.
We already agreed that that was gonna be the narrow road, not the,
Yes, we could go down to 20-foot wide rather than 32 foot.
Yep.
It would just go back in the distance to the substation.
Erickson, do you need a motion on that?
We don't.
Okay. Erickson moves to approve the contract with Banner Engineering for the substation access road.
Shots okay.
Motion has been made and seconded for the Banner Engineering contract for substation road, access road. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And the other thing we have on there is declare the 1999 F-350 surplus. That's the pickup we bought in, it was like 2003, I believe, from the state DOT. Like $3,500 for it back then, and we had some issues with the front axle seals in it. And Eastways replaced the inner and outer seals in it twice, and it's still leaking, so we ended up bought a 2012 Chevy 3500 with a utility box on it from Federal Properties, so we'd like to declare this 99 surplus and get rid of it.
He makes a motion to declare the 1999 F-350 pickup as surplus and ready for sale at auction.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to declare the 1999 F-350 surplus for sale at auction. Any more discussion?
I think we're gonna try the Purple Wave. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but Purple Wave is something that Union County uses for most of their larger equipment. They've had real good success with it, according to Jerry Bloom. So we're gonna try that this time. That way you guys don't have to try to set a value. We'll also we'll advertise it locally, so if anyone local wants to bid on it, they can go online and bid.
So that is an online.
We get so much for it, and then whoever buys it has to pay, I think there's a 10% to the bidding. So whoever's handling the auction. So we get whatever is bid on it, and then whoever buys it gets the extra 10%.
What's it called, Jerry?
Purple Wave.
Purple Wave.
There's a lot of government stuff on there.
All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed.
And the next thing on the agenda there, is appointment of representative and an alternate to the Missouri River, for their annual meeting, voting representative. I was the voting representative, I believe, and Jerry was the alternate that was on there, so. Every year you have-
When does that meeting?
That will be May, I believe it's 8th and 9th.
What do you suggest, Jack? Do you have a recommendation? To take your place?
And, you know, if you guys will have somebody in place by then, or Mike has shown some interest in it, you know. I think whoever takes the position, Missouri River, they offer, it's called 101. So they'll actually come in and sit down with the person and go through and kind of explain to them, you know, what Missouri River does for the city and kind of help them get started in a way, so.
But we need to appoint somebody tonight, right? And then we can always
That should
change
be
it
on
if
the-
we
Yeah, you change it every year, you vote on it every year, who's your voting representative, so.
Erickson moves to appoint, Mike Langston as the representative, and, Jerry Simons is the alternate to the MRES annual meeting.
Again, second.
Motion has been made and seconded to appoint Mike Anson to the representative of the MRES, and Jerry Simon as the alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Jay, do we need to do anything with the South Dakota Municipal Power Association one too? I was just looking at that down there. It said, please verify information is correct. And that's what I do on there.
I was on the South Dakota Municipal Power Agency also. I don't know if that's something that people on the committee will appoint somebody on that, probably.
Is that something we should be acting on tonight or not? Or should we do that another
Well, I
time?
think the committee, the other board members that's on there with me, on the South Dakota Municipal Power Agency, it's through Missouri River, but, so I don't know if the city has to appoint somebody or if the other members of the other power association.
Well, we'll just hold on that one for now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.
Todd Hanson, local superintendent. Update on the fiber to home financing.
I'll start out by giving an update on fiber to the home project. It's somewhat has come to a standstill right now until we can figure out the financials and to get to a point to when the engineers came in a few weeks ago. They expressed to you that they're going to give us the high level quote, and that was a budget based on all work being completed by contractors. Since I felt we needed to get a little closer on the number because of some past improvements that we've made in the outside plant with the burying of interduct, fiber optic throughout the industrial park and so forth. We talked to FAR Engineer and asked them to provide a breakout of the following items, and the items that they presented to you guys as council was outside plant, inside plant, site survey, and inside wiring premises. And so we asked them for a breakdown, all that, what was in those numbers, the project details. And since we received that, we started to pick away at what we feel will be considerable savings. I'm not about to throw a number out to you and have you hold me to it, but we do feel there's going to be some savings there. We're not completely finished with our research at this time. The next is, any questions on fiber to the home project so far? So the next item on here would be the financials for the fiber to the home project. And aside from a couple of you in the room, I think I've discussed with you. A little bit disappointing fact, finding that the city of Beresford, the telephone department, what they had intended to put away for this project, and with past investments and so forth, and finding that the funding has been loaned to the city. And my recommendation, of course, is to keep the borrowing to a minimal and for a shorter term, so we don't incur the interest over long-term debt. So with that, I'm going to open it up for discussion. Teresa, I appreciate all your hard work. Everybody else that's given me their input on some alternative to some options for funding. And when I say funding, I'm talking about cash up front. And me and Jerry met with the bond holders, I'll call it. Last week or two, we got some more detail on that. But again, we'd like to keep our bonds low. And again, me and Teresa have had a couple meetings, and I've had some of our committee today. And if you want to give us some highlights on your findings, I got your email today, and again, I really appreciate it.
I'll go into finance detail later, but just kind of some of the stuff that Todd and I talked about was that he still has the $1 million CD at the First Savings, that First Savings. That he could use, and then there is some money in South Dakota Fit. Total balance in there is a little over $3 million. Just talking with Todd, both of us, I think, feel we need to get a commitment from the city on maybe up to what amount we could self-fund this project, so that Todd knows what amount he, or approximately what he needs to go out and get external funding for, so that we can then, on our next step, approve going forward with FAR as our consultants to keep going on this project. So, like I said, at least the $1 million, and I feel like, you know, we as a council need to discuss and see if there's some of our South Dakota Fit money that we could self-fund with. Todd's already, you know, kind of been looking at paying back with the interest rate that we would be earning. Todd's also, like he said, met with Tim and Jerry with the bonding people and been looking at what bond repayments would be for cash flow purposes. So, I guess first question is the council willing to do some self-funding for this project with some of our South Dakota Fit savings?
Hey Teresa, just for clarification, when you said there's approximately $3 million in South Dakota Fit.
That's total.
That's total.
Yes.
That's not allocated for just the telephone department.
Right. The telephones is approximately $2.5 million of the 3 million, or 3.4. So, I personally don't think we shouldn't take all of it, because we need some cushion, some safety net in case something happens. We need to have something to fall back on, but I think we could easily do some of it.
So, I guess the first thought I have, talking with Todd, is what kind of period do we want to put on a loan or a bond? Are we thinking 20, or are we thinking less? I guess I like less.
My recommendation would be 10 years.
10 years? All right.
Yeah, and
I like
fine.
less. That's what I'm saying.
I think, you know, in my mind, I would like for us to at least give maybe Todd a number so that we can work out the cash flow numbers, and then he can kind of work that into what his future budgets might be and what he needs to be able to cover, both with bond payment and with payment back to the city for what he borrows. So
currently we're transferring $200,000 on an annual basis earmarked for this fiber project, and that then would be going toward the repayment of the bonds, number one. But when you're looking at a 10-year, and we don't have a number yet on how much we would put out for bonds, and if it were a 2.5 million, then you're gonna probably incur another possibly $100,000 you're gonna have to come up with on an annual basis to make this payment.
One other thing we talked about is how we're getting later in the year, and so this project is most likely gonna overlap 19 and 20. Obviously, once we know what the city is willing to self-fund, we'll use that self-funding money first before we take on outside debt, just to help mitigate some of the interest costs with that.
So when we look at, Teresa, now that we've had extensive talks on this, would we look at self-funding with interest rate or the repayment of some of the funds that have been borrowed out and repaid back to the telephone department?
We could possibly look at the latter of, and that's something that I'll bring up here later. I guess I can touch on it real quick here, is our auditors have suggested the money that has been actually loaned out from the telephone department, that we need to have a promissory note drawn up, and we need to be tracking this, and charging, I believe, interest. Correct me if I'm wrong, we should be tracking with interest on this. And so then, I know it is with departments that don't have income, but at the same time, if there's other funds that could suffice or supplement those, then maybe we could use that funds to pay the interest. Is what's on the repayment. Yes. I know. Stop me if I'm overstepping here. We did talk about this is a capital project fund. I know our auditors has told me too that all of my work here is no pulling from the additional penny tax for anything other than capital projects. And so that's something maybe we look at if there's excess funds coming in from that we could use for this. I think there are some options here to hopefully alleviate the telephone department having to pay some of the interest. Maybe we use it, like you said, as a repayment on the other fund's debt to pay back. And I know that gets confusing for some people that maybe aren't in, but I think Todd's done a great job on doing research before we really jump into this project, and making sure that the cash flow is there to pay back bonds and repay the city or his savings account back up.
So if I'm hearing you right, Teresa, that you're saying repayment with interest, or did you say repayment without interest?
Well, I think we have to do repayment with interest, but there's a way I think that we can do it that maybe the telephone department isn't the one paying the interest, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Are you talking about the self-funding?
Yes, I'm talking
about
the
the self-funding?
Yes.
I'm talking about the self-funding. Isn't that the question that you asked?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to look as if the telephone department is repaying with interest, I believe. Unless they want to borrow from themselves at 0%, that's
Well, I'm just going to say something, and I might be completely wrong with this statement, but I'll say it. It's almost like they are borrowing from themselves. So I guess my first indication to me would be that it's a repayment without interest. But if it legally has to be done, then it's a different situation. But I'm just saying if it's to me it would be a borrowing to themselves with a payment back of 0% interest is what I think.
And that would, I think, be ultimately, council's decision, or if we wanted to pay back with the interest that we lost by taking the money out, is what I'm saying.
You're saying make interest in the savings account.
Yeah, so it would be paid back at Fitz rate.
At Fitz rate.
But if we just want to take the money out and then set a set payment back into Fit to rebuild that savings account, so to say, that's an option too.
Well,
his money, his project, I don't think he should pay it.
I mean,
I kind of agree with
they've
you.
been carrying this for a long time.
Yeah. Other people been borrowing from it.
I'm fine with whichever.
So are we looking for a top dollar amount that we're willing to self-fund tonight?
I'd like to give Todd that number, you know, first we have the $1 million CD and then on top of that, how much from South Dakota Fit, so he knows how much he can self-fund from the city and then he can go from there on bonds that we need to finish the project.
Can we go 2.5 million?
Total, or the $1 million plus 1.5 million?
Million plus 1.5.
That's what I was
That's
thinking.
exactly what I was thinking.
Me too.
You're comfortable with all your numbers that you ran, Teresa?
Yep.
Gary, you know, you and I briefly discussed about the second and third penny the other day. Did you get a chance to?
Well, I think she
review that
just
at all?
said that the extra funds from the second, and third penny can be used for capital projects is what, isn't that what you said?
Yeah,
The auditor
yeah.
said. 'Cause I was concerned about that because if that's what some of this repayment is, we've always been flush on second and third penny dollars, and I know they were, the reserve, they could only be used for
Yeah.
specific projects, so I just wanna make sure that.
That's what Terry told me.
So there is additional funds coming in that would be available?
Well, I think that's where some of this money can be paid back from out of the general, is that what you're looking at, to pay some of that back?
Those are for prior year cash shortages to make these funds whole. So this is not related to necessarily what yours is, but we still have a surplus in our second penny fund allocated checking account balance, which tells me that over the years, it's been sufficient to pay its obligations and have extra. So it's something we can dig into further on how much maybe, but just by looking at the numbers, that's what it tells me. If there's money there, that there's been sufficient income to cover the expenses.
Again, you know, my concern is, you know, not just on the telephone department side, but as a citywide, can we make the payments without stressing the budget too much? I'm also concerned about that, so.
Well, if we commit to 2.5, up to 2.5 with self-funding, that gives you some, at least direction on where we need to go to get maybe some outside funding numbers locked in or you know,
Okay.
so that we can then look also at our budget and the cash flows and make sure that those payments can be made.
Okay.
So,
Jerry, you got anything you wanna add about the bonds?
So I mean, you know, we talked about bonds, we've looked at 2.5 to 3 million, 10 years, 20 years, interest rates are still pretty good right now. We are at 2.58 on average for a 10-year for 2.5 million. You know, we can readjust all of those. I mean, if you commit to 2.5, we may not need 2 million, we might well get done for less. You know, we have a $5 million project that we're looking at right now, but that could be reduced down to 4.5, we don't know for sure, but I think we're confident it's gonna be less than what they gave us originally, and if we got 2.5 in, then we're looking at a $2 million bond, which will take our payments down quite a bit more.
I think we agree
And
that.
I think 10 years is definitely doable then too, so.
You know, that's current rate right now, and I think, I don't know, I assume that we would wanna use our cash available to start the project, get the engineer rolling. Utilize those and hope interest rates don't change by the time we get around to.
Just talking to Tom with Doherty and Company, he didn't really feel that there's gonna be a whole lot of movement this year, so I think we feel pretty comfortable going through, at least through the next 6 to 8 months, using our cash. I think that'll carry us quite a ways.
Okay.
It's gonna take 2 to 3 months to get the bonding in place and things. We do a lease purchase, which is what we've done for a lot of our projects in the past. Doesn't count against our bonding indebtedness. They use the actual plant that we're putting outside as part of that's what they would have the security on, so. So that'd be the route to go.
Elin, do you know the maturity on the CD?
It's May.
In May. So maybe that's something
This year?
that we look at just
That was
not
just a 2-year.
renewing. Because then we won't have, if we renew it and then have to early
Yeah.
penalty withdraw, so maybe we just look at not renewing that in May. Okay, good timing.
Actually, the fit rate's probably better right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
There we go.
Turns out.
Do we need a motion on that to commit the 2.5?
I think it'd be nice, so we have something.
I'll move that, we commit 2.5 million to the fiber to home project as a self-funding method.
Chad second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded for 2.5 million self-funding financing for the fiber project. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The next thing, to bring our engineer on board and get the project rolling, we need a motion to.
I think you've already got that contract with them, Todd.
That was more of a consulting agreement, really. It wasn't necessarily it was just a contract for if we ever do hire them. Is that right, Tom? Is that how you feel? Or?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna, I mean, I think you were authorized to go ahead and proceed.
Okay.
Okay. Because the parameters of their contract was set out in there.
Okay.
So you should be fine with what
Okay.
was approved.
Sounds good.
Because they're on contract with the city under that deal, just they weren't gonna incur fees till the council approved moving forward, so.
But as far as the fiber to the home project, this last motion covered that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything else, Todd?
No, it's just when we get down a ways too. Down a ways, there's another item that Tom's gonna discuss.
Okay. Next item would be a report from Elaine, Finance Officer.
So the 2018 compilation report is in your council packet. Summary of their 2018 year. This is a state required report. I just need a motion to approve the report. I'll get it sent off to the state. And then it'll also be in the newspaper.
Here's some moves to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the 2018 compilation report. All in favor? Opposed? That passes. The February 2019 financial report, do you have anything on that?
I'll sorry.
That would have been on your, in front of you guys in the morning.
Yeah.
So just, that was not in the package. That's one that was on your.
To follow up from the 2018 compilation report, I'm just gonna go into the first one, I think that was on your table there. It starts off with notes, and there's 4 notes on there. I've gone back through the general ledger, back through 2012, done some research, put together some tracking, and I guess just presenting to you guys now our findings. I've also worked with our auditors to put together some entries to maybe say clean up or adjust some balances. So first note on there is the general fund has transferred to other funds, but mostly just within the general fund, so I'm not transferring. With this first one, I'm not showing that anybody owes them or that they owe, or I should say that anybody owes the general fund. And then also made a note that the water and sewer had transferred into the sanitary sewer improvement project, but once again, that's their own capital project, so not transferring money back to them. Telephone department was really the only enterprise fund or department to transfer out to other funds, being the general funds, capital project funds, and other enterprise funds. And then I just have number 4 is more of a question, that the amount of money that was transferred back in 2016 from the North Industrial Park, or from the telephone department to the North Industrial Park, is still sitting in the North Industrial Park. And so we're sitting here now 2 years later with the same amount sitting there. It was never used for anything. And so my question was just that. So the next step there is due to the telephone department. So what I found was this is actual money transferred since 2012. Golf course, we had transferred $702,865. We transferred to the general fund $1,443,711. To the sanitary sewer improvement project is $109,368, and to the North Industrial Park was $267,634, for a total of $2.5 million that the telephone department cash balance has been reduced by over the last 5-6 years to help offset other funds' negative cash balances. So with that, the next section here is I put in the cash balances as of the end of February, and then the very last third column is showing what the balance would be after my proposed transfers. So I'm going to actually skip to the second page with the proposed entries and walk through those a little bit with you guys. So with this, debt service, clubhouse, swimming pool, capital project fund, and the FEMA safe house, those three have negative cash balances. So I'm proposing to transfer out of the second penny tax, which is used for capital project funds, to make those cash balances zero. Number two, I'm proposing to reverse the North Industrial Park transfer of $267,000, and also to transfer, since the general fund has over $2 million in their checking account allocated to them, transfer the 1.4 or 1,443,711 back to the telephone department. And I apologize, that does not balance. Oh no, it does. So it would be $1,711. $711. Too many numbers there. Let's just. Okay, so then number three is, as I went through this, also I noticed that the 2016 TIF balance in South Dakota FIT was the same as the negative 2016 TIF checking account balance. So it appears to me that something happened there and we just didn't get the transfer made to make that checking account balance whole. And so this one so the first two, I apologize, were general ledger transfers only. There will not be any physical cash moving. Number three, however, we are moving physical cash from South Dakota FIT back into the checking account to cover the TIF negative balance. And then Terry Post drew up the entry to just transfer the interest that we have been allocating to the TIF, moving that back into the general fund checking account. Number four is, I talked with Todd on this one. We may have seen on some of the other reports that the cable department or the cable fund had a negative $6,680 in South Dakota FIT. For whatever reason, when we made the transfer out of $30,000, there was only $23,000 in there, and so I talked with Todd, and he's fine with us transferring that negative $6,000 FIT balance on the cable into the telephone just to clean that up. So the cable will have a zero FIT balance, and this will just reduce the telephone by $6,000. Once again, general ledger entry only. Number five, just discovered as we were going through once again that the 2017 Ash Creek lot sales for the Bedco loan repayment had not yet been transferred back from our general fund checking account to South Dakota FIT's general fund. So making that, so that's general ledger and physical transfer. I did put this one on here, and we, number six is that we did sell the lots 1 through 10 for Ash Creek, and so there's another transfer back to the Bedco loan general fund checking account, transfer back to general fund South Dakota FIT of $203,000. Number seven, I did check with Terry Post on this one, just because I know we are not able to transfer from our sewer and water funds into our general fund. She said as long as council approves this and we are paying into the capital to pay off in advance, that was for the capital project fund, that we can go ahead and do this. So I would like to also go ahead and transfer from the sewer department to the telephone department to pay back what the telephone department loaned for the sewer project fund of $109,368. Number 8, this is related to the 2018 cash shortages, and you'll see on the compilation report that we just approved that these are actually in the due to and due from other fund accounts on the reports. So golf course at the end of the year had a negative cash balance of $291,694. The liquor store had a negative cash balance of $61,589. And so I'm proposing that we use some of the money in our gross receipts tax checking account to cover those. To kind of elaborate a little bit on number 8, and also with the $700,000 that was transferred back in 2016 from the telephone to the golf course, that's what the very last comment on the second page is that our auditor, Terry Post, has said that we need to draw up promissory notes to start tracking these loans of actual cash that had already been transferred, so that every year we update them and keep record and monitor them, basically. And so the first promissory note would be the golf course owes the telephone department $702,000. Second one is golf course would owe the general fund the $291,000. And then the liquor store would owe the general fund $61,000. Kind of as a side note to all this, I find it interesting, we just transferred out quite a bit of money from the liquor fund to our swimming pool to cover that. And I think had we maybe seen these numbers, we would have realized that we really didn't have that cash balance in that fund to transfer. I mean, we've done it, we've committed to it. Let's go forward with it, obviously. But so then I'll bring it back to the front page and just kind of let you see those balances after the proposed transfers. So everybody would be positive except for the hybrid turkey, which I believe there's money coming in this year that will help make that positive. The East Substation Capital Project, there's a bond money's coming in to help make that positive. And the golf course, 103, honestly, if you add back in the $40,000 that they have in South Dakota Fit, means that they have $63,000 negative. And I will be honest with you, that is already the 2019 loss for the golf course. So that is the cash that they've used above and beyond what has come in. I know it's not their prime season, so hopefully but just so you guys know. So I guess what I need from you guys is basically, if there's any questions on the transfers that I have just proposed, by all means ask. Otherwise, we just need some approval for Elaine to make these entries into the system and transfer the money from FIT to the checking account.
I got a question. Yeah. On this number 7, okay. Sanitary sewer, are you saying that the sewer account about $109,364 from the phone company?
I'm saying back in 2016, the telephone department transferred $109,368 into the sanitary sewer improvement project, which is a sewer project.
Right. And
so I am proposing that the sewer department, sewer fund, pay back the telephone department that amount. Our total cash balance will not change. I mean, with these entries, I'm not changing our cash or anything. I'm just reallocating which funds show which amount, and then moving from our checking account out to South Dakota Fit $232,000. And that's
say that one more time, Teresa.
On the very bottom, Gerald, it's a change here of $232,413.
Oh, gotcha.
That's going to go out to South Dakota Fit.
Okay.
A majority of that is the bond or the Ash Creek sale money.
Gotcha. So that Ash Creek would be coming from Bedco, or who is the Ash
Believe me,
Creek?
the money's already been deposited for the sale of those.
It's already there.
Yeah, it's already in our checking account.
Okay, all right.
So we just need to get it transferred out. Okay.
Very clear.
clear as mud.
It makes a whole lot more sense than me trying to figure it out.
Well, I tried to kind of lay it out so you guys see the before and the after effect and kind of see where it's coming from.
So I guess I had no idea that we were going into this discussion tonight on this.
Well, and I didn't get it out to you guys before, I apologize.
I mean, this isn't anything that we have to do tonight. I mean, we can ponder this, or we can table this till 2 weeks
Yeah, I
from
don't
now, or at our next
Well, I
meeting.
don't see any need to ponder this. This
Well,
is
it's
a-
not really moving money around. I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page.
And I don't think, because these entries are all gonna get backdated to the first of the year.
Oh, it doesn't hurt to wait.
It does not hurt to wait, no, they'll just get, yeah, like I said, they'll get backdated to the first of 2019.
So January.
So we are not affecting the 2018 financials.
Okay.
The one that will have a different, is number 6, the 2019 Ash Creek sale. I have that on there, but we won't be able to, whichever date that money was paid is the date that money, and we can just actually transfer it in March or April. It doesn't have to go back to January 1st, but otherwise, everything else will get backdated to January 1st. Yep. So,
Straightening out the books.
we are, one step at a time.
Well, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah,
if
no,
you
that,
guys feel comfortable with it, we can sure go ahead.
If you wanna look at it in 2 weeks, go ahead.
you better look at them for 2 weeks, Gerald.
I found out quiz. I found out one thing, and that is that we, council, unwittingly approved the transfer of money from the FIT to cover a whole bunch of stuff by just approving the audit report. Because Steve and I talked about this today, Steve's words. They throw the audit report in front of us, that big, and say, here's what we got, approve it. Okay, so we vote for it. On the last page, it says, oh, by the way, we took out X number of dollars from the South Dakota FIT to cover the golf course or whatever. So I think your statement earlier, Teresa, about there should be a promissory note on anything taken out of the FIT is well stated. And I was kind of upset to hear about that because when I heard about it 2 months ago, we never approved that. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Unwittingly.
And one more statement on top of what Tom just said. That's the only reason I asked about thinking about it for 2 weeks, just looking at this. I think us as a council, we get stuff thrown in front of us, and there's a motion made and seconded, and we're taking action, and we don't even realize what we're doing. And I think sometimes we need to step back and table it and just look at it a little bit longer. And that's the only reason I asked about looking at it until our next meeting.
It
So
doesn't bother me if you wanna look at them. If you wanna look at it, that's fine. No.
I might come and ask you more questions.
That is just fine.
Well, I know I
fine.
would.
So if we're I'm just then gonna go on this
I
long
got
one.
one question.
Okay.
Are you ready to Tom Erickson? If there's any loans anywhere, can we make a resolution or something where that has to be put in writing to what department the money was borrowed from, and make sure the department head is notified immediately before it's taken out. The
Well,
transfer, this way it would balance the books way quicker.
I was actually, if that reminds me, do you have just a generic
We
promissory
can
note
put one
that you
together,
could
yeah.
put together for these 3 on the bottom here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, there were some times back when Todd had some projects that we borrowed out of FIT, it's like SDN upgrades or something. But those were to be paid back with the SDN funds that came in. Remember, there were some investments that you were doing that you were getting 15% annually for.
Those are expensed annually, those are not, capital projects.
But wasn't there some money borrowed, and then it was supposed to be repaid back in?
We borrowed $424,000, and that, when we had the opportunity to put fiber optic from Beresford all the way and go with a joint construction with SDN. So we put 24 fiber all the way from Beresford to SDN in Sioux Falls. But that's been fully paid back at $84,800 for 5 payments. So,
Yeah, but that was actually shown in the books as a promissory note that you repaid. I think.
yeah, I'm not.
I think we actually drew up a note on that.
I'm not certain about that because I remember doing a spreadsheet on it with all the details and then just putting it in as, I think it's a line item in our budget as extraordinary expense.
Because it was with interest, if I recall.
No.
No interest?
No, I don't believe so.
It's supposed to have been. But anyway.
Now, there was a contract, when we entered into the contract with, going in with SDN, they put 72 fiber in, we put 24. And there was a contract with them to do the project. So,
okay.
I could be wrong on that, Tom. I just remember, again, thanks to you, you came up with the idea of why don't you borrow from yourself and pay yourself back, and that's exactly what we did over a 5-year period.
And those got repaid?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually,
so you earmarked the income to be.
Are you going over this, Teresa?
That's what I was gonna go next.
Because I see in here our last payment, I think it was 2014, and you'll see that 84,800.
Oh, yeah. This I was giving to you guys more as just kind of informational. This long one is what our South Dakota FIT balances are. Todd, you printed it on little paper, so it's tiny for you. But please, you guys note that Elaine could only go back to 2012 in the new, because that's when our new accounting system started. And so that's kind of the barrier that I was stuck with, even though the 2019 FIT balance came through for whatever reason. It came through as 2019, but yet the only activity was 12 through 18, 19 now. So that's where I started, you know, and if we have more time and we really feel like we need to go back further and dig into it, we can. But I think, you know, talking with Todd and Elaine, I think, you know, now we have 12 forward, let's start there and let's just keep making sure our tracking is good from here on out. I don't know that we may find something, and we may find, you know, Todd, we've talked about one instance. So we may find more, but do we just move forward? And so that's something to think about, that it does just go back to 2012. So if there was things prior to that, they aren't on this spreadsheet, but this is just for information purposes. And the street, library, and fire department, Elaine, were you able to check? Not yet, probably. Okay, so the two that are highlighted on there, I wasn't able to tell from our audit report, or even the general ledger detail, if those were the ones highlighted. They're for general fund, but I couldn't tell if they were street, library, or fire. I know that they need to be allocated out to those, but I don't know exactly which ones. So, yes, Art?
I just got a question on this FIT. Is there any way when you make a report to show what the interest payments on the loan, I mean, the money we put in, I think it's now a little 2%, isn't it?
Well, South Dakota FIT interest is on each year.
Each year.
Each year it says South Dakota FIT interest.
So the percentage?
Oh, I don't have the percentage.
Yeah, the percentage, I think Jerry typed me a report the other day.
It varies,
1%, now it's about 2%.
It's gonna change.
It fluctuates weekly or daily or.
Well, I mean, 2% is a lot better than
Well, it's
year
just,
1.
yeah.
It was horrible before.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so the last thing are the February financial reports. Disclaimer on these is I am presenting these to you tonight as if the entries that I put in front of you were made. Just so you guys know that these numbers do reflect these entries in here.
The changes that
Yes.
they're proposing.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
the only one that has a negative cash balance is the golf course.
Gotcha.
So, I did bring my computer if anybody has questions on any line items. I know we've had quite a long meeting already, so if there's another month, or if anybody wants to email me with questions on what goes in each line item, I have that detail. Elaine has that detail as well. I could answer any questions. As I was putting it together, nothing popped out at me as far as anything. Do you guys want to go through them individually, or?
It's up to the council, we want to move forward with
Okay,
So do you want to table it, or do you want to move forward with what Teresa's proposing?
Well, we can go ahead and just, table them with the proposed entries for the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay,
I'd
And then
rather have
we'll,
that approved before.
before we approve the February one.
okay,
Pretty sure it's an agenda item.
all right. All right, so we're gonna table the financial report for February, till our next meeting. Seeing nothing in the old business, we will move to the new business. First item is to review the bid for crushed gravel and sub-base materials.
We just had the two here, we opened them at 2 o'clock today, and I just reached out to, Rick Knott's been our supplier for many, many years. He was at $9.50 a ton last year delivered, and $4 a ton loaded, so went up 50 cents a ton. We've had good luck with that gravel over the years, and we just recommend that we approve. Rick Knott's low bid for the sub-base for 2019.
Should I make a motion for United Construction, as Jerry Simon stated, for gravel for the city of Beresford, South Dakota?
So I didn't second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the, low bid of Rickman Construction for the crushed gravel and sub-base material. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item is the small cell facility ordinance. Is that,
Yeah, I can fill you in on that. That's the next wave of technology and telecommunications. And there's gonna be a request at some point, it's already coming to the bigger cities, but they want these smaller antenna devices, for lack of a better word. And they would pop them up anywhere unless you have some regulations as to how you wanna control the application process. And so the siting of those towers can be important for aesthetics and a number of other things that I think you want to control. Over the last, it's been about 2 years, the Municipal League and Municipal Attorneys Association have been working with a national law firm that specializes in this to come up with a model ordinance that we think, with some minor tweaking, will work for most of the cities. It's going to help the Verizons of the world, because they're going to have pretty much the same rules in most of the cities they go to. Brookings has done some already, Sioux Falls has adopted some. The model ordinance did take some of those into account. Talked with Todd last week, we were able to meet and talk about a few of his concerns with this. We're going to do some tweaking on the model one from the Municipal League, but hope to have a first reading on that next meeting, which will be your first meeting in April. The idea is to be able to have some control, and it's kind of a zoning issue in a lot of respects, but make sure that standards are met that are satisfactory for the city. Todd's concern is to make sure that we're not missing a chance to be able to pick up some fiber optic business that might come, because that traffic that comes off those cells has to get out into the world somehow. So we want to make sure we're getting a bite at that apple if it's available. So we started the process, just wanted to bring the council up to speed that that's in the works, and it's going to be one of those longer ordinances. There's a lot of rules and regulations we want to take into account, but want to keep them in areas that are appropriate for that. You know, probably want them in the middle of your park, you know, things of that nature. So.
all right, thank you for that report, Tom. So we'll have that at our next meeting.
First draft of, what was in your packet was the kind of the template that we're working off of, and then some of the instruction sheets and explanations that the Municipal League sent out. So.
All right, sounds good. All right, next item under the new business is resolution 2019-04 to review and approve the lot 2 and 3 of the Philip Tract.
This is the old Emily's location. That property was sold. It was bought by Bergs and Jeff Nielsen, who owns Jet, not the service center, but the other convenience store. So there's I don't know exactly how they're splitting it up, But, I guess that's not for us to try to decide, but they have replatted it to lots 2 and 3, and we just need to get that authorized to go ahead and sign off on that so they can go ahead and file the plans.
Shall make a motion, resolution 2019-04, review and approval of plat of lots 2 and 3 of Phillips Track 1 as Jerry Simon stated.
In second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the approval of, resolution 2019-04. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item is the subsidy drawdown request for the Beresford PRCE for the amount of $30,000.
Erickson moves to approve.
Ryan second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the drawdown request for Beresford PRCE. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Subsidy drawdown for the Beresford Baseball and Softball Association in the amount of $10,000. And you have that in your packet.
That was an increase from last year, because I think they had the softball coaches too.
Yeah, girls softball. Just right.
Yeah.
So I can make a motion to approve baseball softball association drawdown $10,000.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the drawdown request for the Beresford Baseball and Softball Association, in the amount of $10,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just a quick note there too now, this is all under one governance now, the PRCE.
Right.
There. I believe that's it.
Yep.
Okay. Next item under new business is accept letter of retirement from Electric Superintendent Jane Marquist.
Nay.
And you would have that in your packets.
What happens if we don't approve it?
Yeah.
Not that we do. Question. You can retire, you can retire.
Right.
Do I get to make a motion?
Yeah, I think so.
As much as I don't want to,
You can vote.
can I make a motion?
Just vote.
Oh, I can only vote, okay.
I think you're still supposed to vote.
Alright.
You have Robert's rule over here. Go take it out.
No, he keeps his own vote.
He keeps his vote.
Yeah,
Keeps
okay,
his vote.
but I don't make a motion.
I wouldn't.
Okay,
I don't
well, that's
Just
fine.
keep.
You make a motion to accept the letter of retirement from Jay Nordquist from the electric superintendent position.
Erickson second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the letter of retirement for Superintendent Jay Norquist.
What's the effective date on that, Jay? Last Friday?
Last work day was last Friday, but last
Okay.
official was April 4th.
April 4th.
A couple weeks of vacation in there.
All right, do we need that on, I don't think we need that on the date.
It was in the
It's-
letter. I
It's in the
think.
letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks and gratitude.
Thank you very much. I did a great job.
I didn't want to make that motion. All right, item number 10, discussion and information items. Consider free dumping at the Beresford, for Beresford residents at the rubble site in April.
Yeah, you know, we haven't done a community-wide pickup for a while, and I really think we're gonna be a little short-staffed. It's gonna be a very, when spring actually comes here, it's gonna be very, very busy. We've got a lot of things to do. So I hate to commit our guys for 5 days trying to go around chasing up all this stuff, so.
I think it's worked good in the past, in the last couple of years doing that.
Give them that option anyhow, and they got plenty of time to do it. They're open 5 days a week, so it'd be 20 days at least, so they will come out. The whole month of April.
So we don't have to take any action, it's just a notice to residents.
I think if you guys are okay with that, like we did last year, we did this last year.
Yeah,
Alright,
same with the rebel hours.
so yeah, the Rebel summer hours for the Rebel site starting April 2nd.
That's just more or less
Same.
information, yeah.
Same information, okay. Then we got the District 3 annual meeting on March 21st.
So any of you that have, either Lane got everyone signed up that have contacted us, so I think it starts at 6 o'clock, so that if anyone wants to ride down, we'd probably leave by about 5:30. Or even ride down here at City Hall, yeah, if you wanna ride along. Seems like they fill up pretty quickly to this thing. My experience in the last few times is, if you don't get there by 6, it's pretty well packed in there already, so.
Where's this
I think
event
that's-
center?
Right on the way into Canton, it's called the Gate City or something like that. It's right across from that Bear Manufacturing. It's that new, it looks like a little motel type thing, and there's a campground there, and I think it's right next to that.
Across
Yeah,
So what, maybe leave it at 5 or 5:30?
5:30, yeah, we need to leave by 5:30, it takes about only 25 minutes to get there.
Alright, any other questions on the discussion items? Alright, let's move to item 11, approval of travel request.
Pearson moves to approve the travel request.
Second.
15 seconds.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve travel requests. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion has been approved. Can I have a motion for the payment of bills?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the payment of bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, executive session. We have a motion to go into-
I move we
Sorry.
go into executive session.
Second. Oh, for personnel.
Personnel. Motion's been made and seconded for your executive session for personnel. All in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive session. Getting the hell out of here.
Have an app to run your computer?
Ready? I declare us out of executive session at 9:37. Any new active?
I move to adjourn.
No, we need to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Withdraw.
Withdraw.
I withdraw my motion. I move that we hire Michael Amundson at $37.81 an hour as temporary acting superintendent of the electric department.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to appoint Mike Anderson as the interim superintendent of the electric department at $37.81 per hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Second move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
2 hours and 10 minutes.